Our last speaker of the day is just about to begin. We've had a wonderful day. I hope you've all enjoyed it. And please visit the last of the vendors for the last hour after you see our last speaker. But with that, I'm going to welcome Sid Garza Hillman. He is a writer, podcaster, certified nutritionist, and director of the Stanford in Wellness program in Mendocino. He talks about vegans in a non-vegan world. He's an author, public speaker, podcaster, certified nutritionist, running coach. And he's the race director of the Mendocino Coast 50K Trail Ultra Marathon. So this is a tremendous speaker. We're so fortunate to have him. I heard him about a month ago at the Sonoma Veg Fest, and so we invited him again to come to San Francisco World Vegan Fest. Give it up for Sid Garza Hillman.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. I was at the Sonoma Veg Fest, and I gotta say I kind of killed that one, so this is not gonna be as good. I was in the zone. So I'll try to kind of match that, but good turnout today, and thanks for having me. This is a subtitled talk, Vegans in a Non-Vegan World. To me, and look, it's my talk, so I'm gonna say it, but it's the more important of things that I think we need to talk about as vegans or non-vegans thinking about being vegan, which is how do we negotiate what we're doing and trying to do in the context of a, let's face it, overwhelmingly non-vegan world. What are the boots on the ground challenges? I've raised 3 kids 100% plant-based. They've been harassed in school by teachers. They've been harassed in school by other students. They've been advised that soy feminizes boys. There's a lot of stuff that is challenging, and that it's, to me, the conversation is not being had as much as it should be. We talk about protein, and we talk about the environment, all good things, but how are we changing minds? Because this shouldn't come as news to any of you, but the animal industry, they're winning so much against us, like they're winning a lot. There's so much winning in terms of what they're doing and what we're able to do. And as much as we do what we do or think about it, which is incredible, more on that in a minute, it's not enough. It just isn't enough. And we've got to come and say, how are we going to get the message across in ways that convince other people to say, oh, that's kind of cool, let me think about that. How are we presenting the choices that we're making with regard to our ethic? And I think I'll start by saying why we're here, which is we are here for whatever reason. Again, if you're thinking about vegan or you are vegan, you're thinking about, like, is this a better way of doing things? And I think that's a very important place to start. My bachelor's degree is in philosophy, and I never let that go. I joke that it prepared me really well for the career I was pursuing, which was to be an indie rock musician. But later, it still infected in a good way my nutrition coaching, my stress management coaching. Why are we doing the things that we're doing? Which I hope we can all agree, and you know, that being vegan is not an easier thing to do. It gets easier, but it's not easier than not being vegan. I mean, everybody that's not vegan walks around and goes, hey, I just kind of feel like a croissant, and I'm gonna have a croissant. And we're thinking about it. And sometimes that's a nightmare. Sometimes that wears us down, because always paying attention to something that we would never, that in the wild, by the way, never pay attention to. We'd find food and eat it, whatever that is. And in the modern world, most people don't pay attention, not really on that level. They might sometimes, but not like we do. We look at a menu and we might feel like everything on that menu, but we'll say we'll have that thing. And that's a nightmare, or it can be. I always joke that vegans have very strong right arms, because we always go, I'll have that. I'll have that. And we're always finding the thing that we say, I can have that. But I want to make sure that we understand that it's not that we can or can't. We all have the ability and freedom to go to McDonald's right now, and we should as a group. No, but we should go and we can buy a Big Mac. But why don't we? Not because we can't. And we get mired sometimes in this restrictive idea that that we now, because we're vegan, we can't have these things. And I think that's a problem, because it means that we walk around in a, I can't have this, this, and this, and we can, and we choose not to. And that's a position of power. When you say I can't have that, that's a position of rules against me, or that I've set for myself. But if I say I don't want it, I don't want that. I want this. Then is it really restrictive to say I don't want cheese, I want something that's non-dairy? Really, I mean really. But many vegans, and I've been one 23 years, are still in that kind of I can't have this thing and restrictive and they're freaking people out, frankly. Okay? So we're here because we're trying to make the world a better place via taking care of ourselves, via not torturing animals. I was just talking to somebody this morning, like I think most people, humans, are vegan at heart. I live in a rural place. Everybody I've ever driven behind, when a deer or a squirrel comes across the road, they don't want to hit it, they swerve. That means they're vegan. They don't want to, oh, that's horrible, I would never want to do that. But then they'll eat a burger because they don't see that that's the same thing. It's the same thing. So it's not like people are going, woohoo, I want to kill a deer for no reason, but they'll go to McDonald's and there's just that disconnect. But I think when we understand that if we give people a little bit of a benefit of the doubt of like, probably most people that you know who aren't vegan probably don't, they probably even know, they probably go, I don't want to think. Have you ever heard somebody go, I don't even want to think about it? They know. It's just a hard thing to take on in the context of an otherwise pretty crazy world that we're living in with social media and the news, and then we go, okay, now I got to pay attention to this thing. Okay, that's harder than it was yesterday. I was not thinking about a menu yesterday, and now I'm thinking about it today. And you put kids in the mix. Soy feminizes boys. Well, I have a 15-year-old son. How do you think that plays in a classroom? So I got to pick up the phone and have a conversation with that teacher and say, listen, don't air out your personal stuff in a class. It's not okay. And she actually realized that it was wrong. She researched it, but didn't correct it in the class. Didn't say, hey guys, listen, I was wrong about that thing yesterday. And she goes, nobody cares. I go, yes, they do. Because some kid walked up to my son and said, you must eat a lot of soy because you sound like a girl. I said, so people do care. And when you make a statement that has no basis in science or fact, and you find out it's a mistake, correct it for crying out loud. It's basic stuff, right? Okay. So, back to this. Okay, well the struggle. So here's the thing. I always tell people, I've never sold easy. I've raised 3 kids, 123 years, my wife and I've never said, this is easy. This is easier. But I'll also say this, is it easier not to have kids than it is to have kids? Totally. In fact, I'd say it's easier not to be married than it is to be married. But it's better for me anyways, and it's been great having kids, but we have to adopt and accept a struggle that's associated with these choices. And we have to, in a way, embrace those struggles because we're fighting, in a way, to make ourselves and the world better. And I always teach my clients that I want people to be more selfish. It's weird, but I don't think we're selfish enough. And I think what happens is we sort of do this half-ass selfishness, which plays as greed. And it comes to, I have to have my food taste this good every time I eat. It has to be that good every time I eat. And if an Impossible Burger doesn't taste exactly like my burger, then I'm not changing. And it's like, well, what if it tastes good enough and you feel better in your mind and body because you didn't eat something that's destroying the planet? So, but it is a struggle. There is stress associated with this choice. And if you don't do the work of managing that stress, reminding yourself, do you guys know who Gene Bauer is? He started the Farm Sanctuary. And Gene was in it in the 70s. He was the guy walking in the whole fling with a hidden camera, stuff I don't even want to think about because I don't have to anymore, which is nice. But one of the benefits of like doing this is that I don't have to think about it anymore. And when I see something, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to think about that anymore. But I asked him on my first podcast years ago, I said, he has seen the stuff live that I've only glimpsed on video monitors, so I can only imagine what is happening in the movie that's playing in his head sometimes. And he said, the only way I get up in the morning is to only remember all the positive changes we've made. He has to do that every morning. But see, here's the thing I think all vegans need to do that every morning. I think all vegans need to wake up every morning and go, here's the stuff I'm doing positively to make a change. Because when we don't, we come across as the stereotype they want us to be. And by the way, they do. Anybody here had a cold or a flu? Anybody? Yeah? Cool. It's because you're vegan. Because you are. And so if my kid plays basketball, gets an ankle sprain, because he's vegan. So I'm going, you're telling me that every kid who gets injured in basketball is vegan? Is that the argument that you're making? Of course not. But my kid gets injured, it's because he's vegan. You know that. My second book came out called Raising Healthy Parents, about healthy families and everything. Parents taking care of themselves, being selfish, treating themselves better so that they parent the way they want to, they live the way they want to, managing that stress. And I used to give a talk when that book came out. I was giving talks, and I always show a picture of my kids. I'd say, listen, just so there's credibility, I have 3 kids. I'm not talking about healthy families, and I don't have kids myself. And it was a picture of my 3 kids standing like this or whatever. And I go, but in the interest of transparency, without any protein or calcium, like they're being propped up because they can't stand up. And so we kind of just like that, and then we shoot the picture, and then we edit out all because that's the assumption. Do you know how many people have said to me, oh my gosh, you raised your kids' feet. I bet you have to be very careful. And I always say, I do. Just not as careful as parents who feed their kids dairy and meat. But you have to be careful. You have to watch out. You have to pay attention. It's harder, but it's also better. Okay. On that note, I call these kinds of choices being in the ethical minority. And the way I sort of visualize it is that we've got 99.99, I don't know what the percentage is, but let's say that we're not many vegans in the world. Okay, so there's a lot of vegans, and most people aren't. But I'm vegetarian. Okay, anyways, but here, and then we go like this. And we're stepping outside that norm. And we're doing it every day. And we think about it every day. I mean, if you're vegan, would you agree that you think about being vegan at least once a day? Right? Okay. At least once a day, because we're presented with something in that world daily. We're checking an ingredient on something in the market, or we're at a restaurant and we're looking for the thing that we don't feel like but that we're going to have because of whatever reason, and it sort of becomes a thing that we think about all the time, and that puts us in an ethical minority. And again, the argument here is we can sit through lectures of heart disease and we can watch lectures about the environmental impact of animal agriculture. I've sat through them. The facts are in. And a lot of people know the facts and they still don't act. And they know that plant-based is, no matter what Joe frickin' Rogan decides about the thing on a given day about meat eating, he's been on the carnivore diet. He says he feels better on the carnivore diet. I go, well, I feel better on heroin. But I think that we can agree that unless there's sort of science backing that up, I don't care how you feel on a given diet. But that's the thing. And I just read an article that the meat industry is marketing to men because they've decided, rightfully so, that they can tap into this feeling of machismo, red meat and macho. And on my podcast, I go, here's what's not masculine, erectile dysfunction. But anyways, and so, because it's tied to animal protein, but whatever. But that's the stuff that is, he has 14 million followers. So he's talking about the carnivore diet. He feels better and he's got muscle and it's like, okay. But how much good could he do if he actually went to the science and looked at a silverback gorilla? You ever seen a silverback gorilla have muscles on it? What do you think it eats? Guess what? Leafy greens, berries, nuts, roots. I mean, come on. But it's not about that, because most people know it. I believe that to be true. Most people have a general idea, and they still don't do it. Why? Well, addiction to food. I don't want to be told what to do. That guy's crazy and he's vegan and he made me not want to be vegan because look at him. You know, that kind of thing, because he's getting in my face about stuff at a party and I just wanted to have a beer and not talk about it. Okay? So one time I was at a party in New York. I was speaking out there and I went to a party and there was like cheese pizza and a salad with cheese in it. And I've been vegan long enough, I just won't eat. Like, I don't really care. I'll either eat before I go, I'll eat after. I know I'm going to get food. Like, nobody here is going to starve. We're going to be okay. So I'm showing up and I'm having a whiskey because I like a good single malt. And he bought one. And so I'm sipping a whiskey and I'm enjoying myself. I was talking to somebody, nice conversation. The host's wife comes up and goes, listen, you can't have the pizza and you can't have the salad because there's a cheese. I go, yeah, we're good. And she goes, I mean, we could maybe pick the cheese out of the salad. I go, it's totally okay. Don't worry about it. I'm totally okay. Holding the whiskey. And she goes, you need to relax. That's what she said to me. And I go, what about this picture isn't looking relaxed? I was enjoying a whiskey and a nice conversation until you came right on in and decided that you're putting a restrictive film over me. I don't care about that. I'm not eating. I'm not talking about it. I'm not offering to people, hey, that's not vegan. I'm just having a good time at a party. So these are things that we are presented with by living in this world. And it can be a nightmare when you add that to all the other stresses that we have, raising families and going to social media and all the things that we're doing. I was speaking in North Carolina, and I got there the night before, and this woman I stayed with, she was one of the volunteers, and she said, I don't know if I'm going to go to the event tomorrow. I said, why? She goes, well, there's this huge fight opening up on Facebook with this vegan group, and there's a lot of, it's vitriol, and everyone's fighting, and they're getting mad at each other, and it's too uncomfortable. I said, don't let them dictate your actions, just go to the thing. So she goes to the event the next day, and she was also associated with a farm sanctuary, so she sort of hung out with them and not with this group. I haven't told you the name of the group yet, because that's the big reveal. The name of the group that was fighting and just going at it, this is not a joke, Vegans for Peace. T-shirts, Vegans for Peace. And I was like, we have to do better. We are not doing a good enough job. I hate to say it, it's a tough pill to swallow, but if we want change in the world, it is a responsibility that we're taking on, and if we don't deliver, nothing substantial happens. I know it sucks to say that, but it's true. Preaching to the choir is fun, but it doesn't do anything massively. Going out into the world and being a happier person because you're plant-based, to be a healthier person because you're plant-based, to understand that it's a choice you're making, not you can't have, but that I want to have. These things make a difference. They really, really do. But it means you've got to somehow work on a system where you're bringing this up in your life amidst the jobs and everything else that we have. And that's what makes this a difficult conversation to have. And I got to tell you, food, you guys know, I hope you know this, vegan has nothing to do with food. Do you know that? Do you know that that's true? Vegan has nothing to do with food. It's how I see it, and I am 100% right about this, like most things, but it's an ethic expressed in food. It's an ethic expressed in the world, but it's an ethic first. Food, we get distracted because we want to get down the rabbit hole with somebody at a party about where protein comes from. But that's a distraction from the ethic of treating yourself compassionately, treating yourself nicely, doing that first so that it's easier to kind of treat the world nicely. Also not torturing animals. People go, you brainwash your kids. I go, well, first of all, that's what parents are supposed to do. So I'm totally on board with that. And also, I teach them a lot of things. Not to cheat, not to steal, not to lie, not to torture animals, not to hurt people. It's not that, it's in the list of things. It's not like a separate thing over here because it's food. It's a list of right and wrong that as a parent I teach my kids. Why is it such a big deal? Because in the food realm with addiction and ritual and nostalgia, we are taken aback by that decision. It pisses us off. I don't want to be told what to do. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you, that's why I teach my kids right and wrong. I teach them not to steal. Does that offend you that I teach my kids not to steal? No. Well, is it that weird that I teach my kids not to torture animals? Not that weird. It really isn't that weird. Sometimes vegans make it weird, though. Again, tough pill to swallow. But sometimes they do. And there are vegans, many who I met, where I'm like, listen, I would totally not want to be vegan after meeting you. I don't say that. I'm not mean. I say it now, but not about them. It's about him. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. No, but I've actually had that experience many times where I'm like, oh my gosh. I work at I run the wellness center at the Stanford Inn, vegan resort. Do you know, and I hate to say this, but you know overwhelmingly our kind of biggest pain in the butt guess who? Vegans. 95% of our guests aren't vegan or vegetarian. Very happy to be there. Most of them super cool. Some, not. They're not going to have a good time no matter what. But some of our most high maintenance guests are vegan. And some of them write bad reviews about us. And I go, this should be the last review. Write every review about every non-vegan hotel and then come to us at the end of it. At least we're trying, for crying out loud, right? Like we're making an effort. Don't nail us on the food so that nobody else wants to come because you didn't love the meal that one time, right? So it's getting our heads on straight about that kind of stuff. I already told you that story. This one is the challenges of, guess what? Everybody weighing in on your choice. Find out next time somebody goes, well, where do you get your protein? By the way, you need eggs for whatever and this and that. Ask them how many of them are nutritionists. Almost 0%. I had a client recently, this elderly couple, she says, my daughter says I need to eat eggs. I go, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize your daughter was a nutritionist. I won't step on her toes. You should totally do what she wants you to do. And she goes, oh, she's not. And I go, I know she's not. Why are we having this conversation? Like, you know what I mean? Have you ever, how many people weigh in on nutrition that you don't even ask, by the way? I've worked with couples where the daughter has a severe lactose intolerance to the point where she's writhing in pain and the husband's sneaking her dairy. I mean, that's how that's how nut our species is. That's how just off the charts. That's what we're up against. As I said, the animal industry is winning like a lot. They're marketing meat to men because it makes them feel macho and tough. Think about that for a second. That somehow being vegan and living a long time, being very healthy and vibrant is not tough. Well, let me tell you something. Being vegan in a non-vegan world is tough. Standing on principle is tough. It's a measure of strength. It's not masculine or feminine, it's strength. That's what that is. But understand that what you're getting into before you get into it is all I'm saying about that. Forget the choice, forget the joy, lose the battles. Happier, healthier than everybody else. We have to be happier and healthier than everybody else. Sucks. Totally sucks. Because if you're not, the reason you're not, it will be because you're vegan. And it may not be, but that's the perception of that. As soon as people know you're vegan, everything is going to be through that filter of whatever's going on with you, it's the vegan thing. I mean, I have heard it all. 23 years, I've heard it all. I've had my children called vegan freaks by a teacher's aide. I've had my kids had chicken thrown at them. I've had discussions about their lunch. When I was in school, we ate lunch at a table and we talked. Now they go, that's vegan, you need more. My son's 15. My kids hit puberty at a healthy age, later. But because of that, they didn't get tall right away. So for a while, it was like, oh, see, he's shorter because he's vegan. It's like, oh my God, I'm looking at my watch going, how much can you just, I mean, it's ridiculous, right? This teacher told my son, soy feminizes boys. Also, you cannot be pregnant and vegan. My wife has given birth to 3 of them, and 2 of them were twins. No protein, that's boring. I'll have, and anemia. All vegans are anemic. Okay. Also cows, that's, okay. So we can sort of come at them with the facts about it, but the subtitle of this talk was one answer to rule them all, and I'll finish up at the end with a way that I recommend most people talk to most non-vegans. And I think this is one thing I do. So if I'm at somewhere and somebody asks me about it, I'll talk about it. I don't offer it. You know the old joke, if you walk in a room and how you know who's vegan, they'll tell you, okay. So again, I'm all just like, hey, so what I will happy to talk about this, but just for the record, you asked. We'll actually say that. And I kind of laugh and I just go, listen, you asked, I'll talk about it, but you asked because I don't want 10 minutes later to go, he was totally just preaching to me about vegan, because that happens too. So I go, for the record, you asked. I'm happy to talk about it, but I also keep it short and sweet. And when one time a woman came up to me and she said, people ask me why I don't eat dairy. And I never know what to say. And she said, what do you think? I said, well, just tell me. Like, we're just 2 people having a coffee. Like, and I'm already vegan, so you're not trying to, like, why do you not eat it? I'm just curious. And she's like, well, I don't, because she had like 3 or 4 reasons. I go, and that's what you say. So she was getting stressed about having a canned answer. How do you think those things play? How do you think canned answers play? When somebody says, well, you're vegan, where do you get your protein? Here's what they hear as soon as you start to answer. Boo. They don't want to know. They're asking for whatever reason, but they don't want to frickin' know. They already are set in their thing. That's not going to be the day that they change. It's a slow roll. And that frustrates people because they go, this is a massive problem. The environment is being decimated. I agree. The question isn't that it's an issue or that I'm disagreeing with how much of a problem it is. It's what is our method of changing more minds as quickly as possible? And getting into someone's face and being hypercritical and looking down on them and being this like angry thing, I know that there's a place for activism. I just don't see it as being as effective as living an example, day-to-day grind. Day-to-day grind. Go to your things, and that's fine too, and pick it, but also the day-to-day grind of it. That's the stuff that changes more minds. We have to change more minds. Last slide, and then I have questions. And by the way, I'm a nutritionist. So the last talk I was like, listen, I try to get people to not think about food so much because it's an ethic, all this kind of stuff, and then the hands raised, and this one person was just questions about nutrition like for a long time. And I kept smiling like, I don't want to talk about food, I don't want to talk about food. I can teach anybody here enough about nutrition in about 45 minutes. It's so not, I've had clients where I go, put your nutrition books in the garage. You knew enough 5 books ago. That's not why you're not eating the way you want to eat. It's because of the challenges of the world. It's because your husband isn't vegan and you go to a party and everyone gets on you and criticizes you. That's why, not because you don't know, because you didn't read Fit for Life or Eat to Live or the China study, right? So the answer I recommend, and I will take questions, and don't be embarrassed to ask me a food question. It's totally okay. I'm just saying that it's here and here. Here and here, how you express that, but it starts here and here. And this has to be super clear. Why are you doing this? Why are you taking this on? And then you have to remind yourself every single day so that you come out of the door, I'm gonna go for a nice little run, not too much. I'm gonna have fun at work, I'm gonna joke around. I'm not gonna watch YouTube videos of slaughterhouses because I already made a decision about it and I don't need to be surrounded by that madness all the time. I was doing a talk in Florida and I just walked to the bathroom and I glanced over and there was a monitor there and I saw something I didn't intend to see. I just was like this and I went, it was maybe 1.5 seconds, I'm not kidding, like 1/1000. And it's in my brain, it was 10 years ago. In my brain. If I think about it, it almost brings me to tears. It's so massively there. So imagine surrounding yourself with that. And we know it's going on. Thank God we can compartmentalize. I said this in my podcast, I go, thank God we can compartmentalize. Thank God we can push these things down because we never get out of bed. It's there, I just want it here. I want it right here most days so that I can go to work and raise a family in a healthy, happy way. So we've got to do what it takes to make ourselves happy and light and fun. So, one answer to rule them all. It's a recommendation I make about how to negotiate a non-vegan world as a vegan, which is when somebody asks you, why are you vegan? Oh, you're vegan? Here's what you say. You say, if you only knew what I know. And then you just walk away. If you only knew what I know. What happens when people know something and don't act on it, that's a conflict. We all do it, by the way. We're not all going, we never do. Yes, we do. But if most of the time we know something and then we act on it, how liberating that is, how off our shoulders that weight is of that conflict. Being vegan is harder to exist in a non-vegan world, there's no doubt about it, but in some ways it's a much lighter, it's a massive thing that we don't have to grapple with. Did anybody here sort of go partly vegan and partly not for a little while before they came, me too? And it got exhausting. It got tiring. I was like, I don't want to think about it. It was like, oh, have I just did it today? I had cheese yet 2 days ago. I'll have a little bit, not at home, but I'll have it when I'm out. And finally I was just like, good, I'm done. It was the most great choice of just like, one less thing I have to grapple with every day, right? And then it made room for other things that I might want to do that are cool, right? Okay. If you only knew what I know, and then walk away. If they follow you and go, well, what do you know? Have a conversation. Just be like, by the way, you did ask. Okay, I'm open to any questions, but thank you very much for listening. And if anybody has questions, fire away. But I'll be at the Stanford Inn table too. Thank you.
You were saying about nutrition.
Yeah.
I often find that they don't know. Oh my God, what possibly qualify users?
Well, yeah, they're not nutritionists. Yeah. And he's saying most people don't know enough. Here's what I will say about that, and I agree with you. However, I think that generally, I teach classes at the inn. I think generally people have if I tweak, it's like this much. They generally know fruits and vegetables are good, whole grains are better than refined grains, beans are good for you. Now, they might have read the paleo madness, started by a chiropractor, by the way, the paleo diet. And so they might have a thing about that, but in general they have a baseline. But yes, the people who are doling out nutritional advice who are not nutritionists are not well informed. And it's a pretty simple thing. I've actually told people, I go, say you're seeing a nutritionist. Just say, I'm working with a nutritionist. Tell your doctor who's not trained in nutrition, not a criticism, it's just not a part of their job description. I'm not trained in medicine. But just say, when they say, listen, you gotta make sure you get enough protein, because I get it every time I take my kids into the pediatrician, just go, oh, working with a nutritionist. And just, and it's just shut it down. Even if you're not, just shut it down, okay? It's just practical things. Don't get into a conversation that you're not gonna win and isn't gonna change anybody's minds, because it makes you more stressed than you were before. What else? Yeah. I am.
What do you think is the most important things in terms of diet and supplements to lower cholesterol?
She wanted to know, as a nutritionist, lowering cholesterol. So something interesting, and interestingly, when I work with clients, I will not talk about food for 4 to 6 weeks, because it is all about stress, including cholesterol levels. Cholesterol is a stress response in the body. What's interesting, when people have a high cholesterol, I always first say, what's the stress like in your life? Now that could be dietary stress, there's no doubt about that, but it could also be job stress, bad sleep, too much exercise, right? I've decreased exercise in more clients than I've increased. I've said, you're pushing yourself. Because you're pushing yourself, then you're going to a stressful job, then you're eating not so great, and then you're not sleeping well. But all in all, it's the same answer for most things, which is mostly fruits and vegetables, some whole grains and beans, and a little bit of nuts and seeds. Supplement-wise, stuff you can't get from food. D, because we're not in the sun enough, and B12, why? Where does B12 come from? Anybody? It's amazing how vegans do not know this. What's that? Talk to me. Yes, it's in the soil. Nice. It's in the soil. Well done. So they go meat. Vegans who I teach, they go meat. I go no. So they're walking around thinking vegan diet sucks because of the B12. I'll do it, but it sucks because of the B12. And I always say, well, if it's in meat, where do the cows get it? Because they're vegan. They get it because they eat dirt when they eat food. We don't. We clean our food off. Okay, fine. Then put a B12 on your tongue. And let's not talk about that anymore either, right? So it's pretty easy, except that when you factor in the other stress parts of life that we're all suffering from, breath work. That's why I became a breath work coach. I will teach my clients breath work for 4 weeks before I will have a discussion about food, because all of a sudden they're digesting better, they're sleeping better, they're eating better because they're not as reactive stress eating, because they're dealing with the stress, not the food. So it's the same kinds of things, but calorically mostly fruits and vegetables, which means bigger volume of those things because they're lower in calories. We could put a little drizzle of olive oil, and then there's more calories of the olive oil than there is in the whole salad very quickly. So it's having bigger portions of those and less of the refined stuff. Make sense? Okay. Anybody else? Questions on ultra running? No? Yeah, go. Who are non-vegan? Yeah, don't have non-vegan friends. No, no, they're bad people. No, in fact, they tend to be more entertaining. Anyways, no, I'm the only vegan. Look, I'm one of the only vegans in my area. I'm definitely the only vegan family in terms of like my kids. You can't, it's better. I mean, I would love it if everybody were vegan, and that would be awesome. But to not have friends because they're non-vegan means, again, first of all, your life sucks. And second of all, you're not going to ever change any minds. And I got frustrated a few years back. I said to my wife, I feel like we never, nobody's ever, been influenced by us. And she goes, well, wait a second. And she brought up the fact that, we get invited to parties, and most of those people now are not vegan, but they're mostly. And I've never asked somebody, make something for me. I'm always like, we'll bring whatever, and we always bring a ton. Always a mistake with vegans. Don't bring enough for you, because everybody eats your stuff and their stuff, and then you're screwed out of your stuff. So we would come with big old portions and good tasting. Don't do this. It's Sprouts at a party, because then they're exactly what they thought you was going to be. So make it really good, even if it's junky. That's the time and place. And show up and be there. You can't change minds if you're going to be walking around with people who agree with you on everything. There's no fun about that, And so to have I wouldn't have any to do anything. But anyway, my wife goes, notice that those parties now, and so when I call and I go, we'll bring something, they're like, oh, it's 97%. We have a little bowl of cheese for anybody who wants it. I'm not kidding. We're the only ones, and we've never asked. It takes a while, but that's pretty cool. Right? Okay, so it does change minds if most times it's a little lighter touch. You're showing up all happy and healthy. No, well, that's kind of cool. And they ask you and you answer, but light. It's a party. Don't get heavy. Right? Okay, what else? Anybody? Yeah.
Thinking about your kids and also you're just as a vegan being cut up.
Yeah.
People make jokes oh, don't eat the grass, or oh, plants have feelings, or eating plants. How do you manage people are playing, but it also strikes hard?
It does. And again, so I'm going to back it up again and say, how did you wake up that morning? Because the less reactive you are to those things and go, you want me to eat grass? You know what I mean? I would bring humor. I'm a big fan of bring humor into it immediately, right? But again, where's your state of mind when you're there? That means all the preparation that you did before you got to that situation. So I have clients who go, I ate too much last night. I go, well, so what? And also, what was the rest of the day like? How'd you sleep the day before? Always go to the so if you go to a party and you get swept up into that madness and you get reactive and your blood boils, use that as a perfect learning experience to go home and go, why was I so freaking reactive then? Oh, I've been drinking too much caffeine. I've been sleeping not well. I haven't been eating particularly well. You know, I'm stressed at work. Because then you sort of prepare yourself in ways that you go next time, you're like, okay, you know, like you can have a sense of humor about it, and they take the piss out of you, but you don't really care. And you go, you know, you can say things. You can go, well, I care what I eat. Is that a big deal? Is that a big deal for you? You know what I mean? Like there's ways to just sort of diffuse the situation. Everybody wants to be right, including vegans, by the way. We all do. So when you get a I'm right kind of thing, there's not going to be any resolution to that in that moment. And so the less you can be involved or engaged in that whole madness, because I've heard it all. You know what I mean? And so it's just the better you can sort of have a lightly sense of humor about it. Pick up some grass and eat it. That's what I would do. What else? Yeah.
So I'm actually 77 years old, and I tell people who ask me how I do it that I'm vegan. And most of my friends who are vegan look 10 or 15 years younger. We don't live longer, but we look way better when we die. And everybody loves that.
You look better when you die. That's a good, strong argument. Okay. What else? Anybody else? Yeah. Yeah, so the breathwork's not in the ethical realm, but it affects the ethical realm. Meaning, stress management affects the ethical realm. And here's what I mean by that, which is, I find most people have a pretty clear idea about how they would act in most situations. This bracelet I made is called WWID. What do you think that means? What would I do? Yeah, we have a pretty good idea of what would I do if everything was in the right situation. If my stress was low and I'd been sleeping well and I was kind of okay, I would totally, how many times have we been in a meeting and we go, oh, I should have said that thing. Well, sometimes you say that thing, and because you're in kind of a place where you can pull that off in those situations. Breathwork simply was me looking for more and more ways to help my clients minimize and manage stress. And I actually think it is equal to food. It's why I discuss it long before food. Food is so triggering, and I don't want people to think, oh, I can't have this now. So I do a breathwork kind of thing so that that habit's in place. Then they gently start making changes in their food, but it's not in a reactive way. So it's simply a backdrop. So is exercise also, but not too much. So we get into this data gathering and we're pushing too hard, and that can feed into stress eating and being irritable and all these other things that's why my second book's called Raising Healthy Parents. I've never met a parent who doesn't know ideally how they'd like to parent. They're not yelling at their kid because they want to yell at their kid. They're yelling at their kid because they had a bad day at work and they're eating a bad diet and they're not sleeping well and they're totally irritable. That's a stress problem, not a parenting problem. Right? So this isn't, when that came out, somebody said, well, why do you have the credibility to write a parenting book? I said, there's nothing in that book that says, here's how you parent your teenager. It's just that you already know, that's my premise, and here's how you can sort of do that more often than not and not beat yourself up when you lose a battle, because you're going to also. But how do you do it most times? So breathwork is, as a vegan or a person trying to be ethical in the world, massive for me. It just is. And it's not hippie. No offense, I don't have the hair for it, but it's not a cheek. It's called, you can look it up, it's called Oxygen Advantage. That's what I trained under. And it's about endurance, and it's about anxiety and stress, and it's about all those boots on the ground kinds of things that people are grappling with in the world. Cool? All right, oh, one more. Come on, here we go. There is like my mom, who I love dearly, but and she's mostly vegan for years, but recently she's like, well, I mean, dairy doesn't hurt the animals. And I was like, well, listen, it so totally does. You know what I mean? But I just try to keep it, I don't go graphic. I don't go, here's what they do. I go, well, actually, it's pretty brutal, and just as brutal as the other thing, and environmentally, it's just as bad as meat, so vegetarian sort of. So there's definitely a time and place. And when somebody else brings that up to you, I do think there's a responsibility to say, well, that's not true. It's just that, are you starting that? Because if you're starting it, then you're the crazy vegan, and that's why I'm not vegan. But if they're starting it, you go, well, actually, and I'm a big fan of I'll send you some stuff to look at, because what you're saying is not at all right. And then it doesn't have to be dealt with there, but it's sort of you made your statement, and then later maybe they can look at it. But they probably don't want to anyways, because they probably already know. And that's the thing that's going to hurt you more than it is about helping. Make sense? Okay. All right, you guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sid, for the wonderful presentation, and thank you all for joining us for all these talks. We're finished for the talks for today. I think we have about 20 more minutes left to go enjoy the rest of the Vegan Fest, and thanks for all coming today to World Veg Fest. Thanks very much. Bye.